Party Chairman Jim Walsh here, again talking to you this week about things that I believe will unite the people of Washington in good policy reform and help us fix what's broken here in our beautiful state. We've been talking the last few weeks about crime, and I want to take this week's update to talk particularly about sex crimes. They've been in the news lately. You may have heard or read about the Washington Sex Offender Policy Board. This is an executive board whose members are appointed by the governor and is in charge basically of managing the state's sex offender registries and state policy in dealing with people who have been convicted of sex crimes. The board, and again its members are appointed by the governor, has in a controversial series of steps done some hearings and had some meetings to consider getting rid of the sex offender registries in this state. Those are the databases that allow people to see where sex offenders who've been convicted of a sex-related crime serve their time in prison, if sentenced, and then released back into the general population where they live. Beyond their term of incarceration, these convicted criminals are required to register with the state so that people know where they are, know where they live. The Sex Offender Policy Board is considering either getting rid of or limiting the public access to those databases, those registries. Very controversial. Immediately, a lot of strong blowback, particularly from victims' rights groups who want to keep those registries open to the public. And the board, I should say, has not taken any step yet. They're just starting this discussion. So hopefully they will not and listen to the voices of victims and victims advocates. But this issue raises a bigger question about sex crimes and sex-related offenses in our state and how the state deals with them. It's been the trend in Olympia for a couple of decades, really, to soften the state's stance on both proceeding with criminal charges against sex offenders and then dealing with their incarceration and punishment if convicted. We've seen this continue up into the recent sessions in Olympia, where basically partisan activists are saying that sex crimes are somehow inherently unfair to the criminals and trying to soften sentencing, trying to make convictions harder to come by. Some of these activists would prefer to see that sex crimes are treated by the courts as civil matters, not criminal, where a victim would have to sue a perpetrator, a rapist, or a molester civilly, rather than have the state go after that person criminally. This is not, I believe, a good public policy approach. I think that throughout all of human history, civil societies have considered sex crimes capital offenses, right up there with murder and homicides. And I think there's a reason that civil societies do that. In order to allow people to protect both themselves, their bodies, their persons, and the bodies and persons of their families, it's important to treat sex crimes as capital offenses. And in our muddying and softening of our public policy on the matters of sex crimes, we've gone in some strange directions as well. Within our penal system, within our correction system in this state, we've taken a very activist stance about putting biological men in women's prisons in Washington. And some of my colleagues in Olympia have done some very good work shining a light on that practice. State Representative Michelle Caldier is one who have really called out our State Department of Corrections for this practice of imprisoning and moving into women's prisons, biological male prisoners. I think that's a terrible practice. And in an attempt to be use an equity lens for our prisons, we're actually enabling more sex crimes. And this is not the right way to go. We as a state, we as a nation, we as people in a civil society need to restore sex crimes as capital offenses. Violence, personal violation of one's body, that is as serious an affront to individual rights, individual liberty, a person's self-determination as murder or other capital crimes. This is a philosophical principle. It's a first thing, it's a value. And I think it unites people of goodwill in a civil society. We need to return a stronger and clearer focus on this element of dealing with crime in society. And I think we will all be better off. That's it for this week. A serious topic, a heavy topic, but an important one for the times we live in, and an important one for fighting crime in Washington State. I look forward to talking with you again soon. Be well. Okay, a little long.